We truly apologize for starting a bit late. Our intention was actually to start at 5. But the unfortunate part is that we are in Braamfontein, which is at the heart of the city center. So traffic coming here gets really, really, really challenging. So that's part of the reason why we started late. But also, Principal, we have invited young people, and we're very deliberate about inviting young people because we need to ensure that young people are clued up about these issues of geopolitics, economic matters. These are future leaders of tomorrow. And it's important that in such important discussions, you are the focus point. Because some of yourselves, your expiry date is fast approaching. Therefore, you must not live with all the knowledge. You must leave it with us so that we can carry on the way. In my home language, Prof, there's a saying, which actually says that the old must leave lessons for the young so that they can continue with the baton. So, comrades, we are here for a masterclass, Geopolitics Masterclass. These masterclasses are part of the Tambo School of Leadership programs, which seek to intensify the work of political education by looking at various themes and various topics that are relevant and that are of significance. The first masterclass was held about 2 months ago at Emoyeni. It was on the industrial policy. But today we are having a masterclass where we'll be discussing the issue of trade wars. We are all aware that actually the US has been escalating its aggression through tariffs, in which these tariffs have become part of the poly crisis that has been identified by many theoreticians and scholars. But also, it is not something new. It's just a new method of aggression, because it's been somewhat of an aggression. Professor John Nation makes the point when it had 2 points. One, it was through the notion of the Orange Revolution, which is the democratization and neoliberalism. But if that failed, then they use military might. But since the emergence of this new Trump administration, we are seeing another third means, which is these tariffs that are just being thrown around. So today we are going to be discussing those issues and taking lessons from Venezuela in particular through our guest professor, Professor Tomas Camacho. And it's very important to learn from Venezuela because Venezuela has been on the receiving end of the US aggression for quite some time. So we want to hear from them, how have they been surviving and what are their future plans? But I think before I call Comrade Masuku to come and welcome us, I don't see him. Yeah, I think he's being called there. Because the principal needs to come and give us an opening, but he has another commitment. Is to make the point that this aggression and the rise of right conservative politics, it's also a call to us, the progressive left, to say, what do we do now that there's this aggression, which is characterized by the rise of the right and conservative politics? But it's also a call on us to really reflect on ourselves as to whether are we organized enough? Are we still as progressive as we think? Are the politics that we're advancing today relevant or are they outdated? And therefore, what should we do as the progressive left to respond to this challenge? So without any waste of time, comrades, I'm going to call Comrade to come and welcome us since we're in Cosatu. You can't come in anyone's house without necessarily having the owner or the landlord welcoming you. Comrade Masuku, the floor is yours.
Amanda? 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 Yeah, thanks very much, and greetings to comrades. First of all, we want to observe protocol. Want to appreciate the OR Tambo School of Leadership for having chosen Cosatu House, the host of this very important discussion. We, in particular, want to acknowledge amongst us Comrade David Makura, the NEC member and head of political education in the ANC. We also want to acknowledge the work done by the Cosatu Education Department led by Comrade Babsi, who is amongst us here, and Comrade Alfred too. And Policy Department of Cosatu is here, Comrade Tambo. We also want to appreciate the work that we are doing from the ANC or Tambo School and the general work that is being done to develop leadership. Cosatu Communication, Comrade Norman is here. On behalf of the General Secretary of Cosatu, we want to welcome the embassy of Venezuela, and in particular to welcome Professor, both to South Africa and to Cosatu House. We truly an honor and an appreciation and moment of sharing ideas. We do know that it's a very difficult moment globally for Venezuela, for South Africa, for the progressive and the global South. So your being here to share ideas is a very important honor and opportunity to exchange ideas. We want to appreciate that. We're just with you, Comrade Ambassador. I call you Ambassador, I know that. So we're with you at the Central Committee of Cosatu, so it's always an opportunity. We want to also welcome all of you, comrades. Particularly what's impressive is that we have youth. Because amongst the most important critical detachment is young people in conversation about these issues. We don't want to take time, comrades. We want to just say you are welcome at Cosatu House. This is the home of the working class in South Africa. And this is the house where we exchange ideas. It's an honor to have all of you, and we are free to exchange ideas. If there are comrades from the SACP that I left, you are also welcome. I was still checking if comrades from the SACP have arrived, but anyway, you are welcome. I just want to say thank you very much on behalf of that. The rest of the Cosatu delegation will be making the presentations in response to Trump. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Comrade Masuku, for that brief welcome. I do know that indeed Cosatu House is actually a school in itself. When I was in student politics, I met two comrades in particular, Comrade Begitemba Mbata, Comrade Sinetemba. You know, when you join SASCO, they say SASCO is a Marxist-Leninist organization. And it takes time to understand what that meant. So in terms of Marxism and Leninism, these comrades were far ahead of us. So they used to say, you know, we're cooked at Cosatu House. You know, we're cooked there by a comrade Alex Machino and others. And I used to envy them. I used to envy them because they could articulate that. So I'm just saying that to say to these young people, indeed, you are in a house of revolutionaries, you are in a house of education, and it's important that you are here because political consciousness is the beginning of making change in society. If we don't have political consciousness, we tend to become observers of history rather than makers of history. We want you here to leave this house transformed, as Comrade Masuku said. It's a house of the working class. It's a house that advances progressive politics. It's the house that houses all workers in South Africa that are progressive. Cosatu is their banner. And that's why their slogan is an injury to one is an injury to all. So thank you very much, Comrade Masuku, for that. In terms of our program, we're supposed to have Comrade David Makura, who's the principal of the school, to come and give us the purpose of the day. But unfortunately, because we started a bit late as a result of the issues that I had articulated, he has to join another meeting where he has to do an opening as well there. So we're going to skip him for now, but he may come back at some point, depending on what time he finishes that side. But as I said, comrades, these master classes are a part of the work that we're doing at the school. There's a number of programs that we're doing to advance political education, to advance leadership development. And our focus is particularly young people and marginalized groups, right? Not that those are the only ones, but we have a bias towards them because we understand very well, Prof, and I repeat, this is the future. And if you don't start preparing it now, you're going to have problems. A bit later, when we move towards closing, we'll articulate some other programs, in particular in this month of October, which is our Tambo month in the calendar of the Liberation Movement. So we'll be speaking to that. But without any waste of time, comrades, I'm going to call Comrade Gonzalez to come to the floor. Comrade Gonzalez is a member of the Embassy of Venezuela. He will be doing two things. One, he will be giving us the words from the ambassador, who will be joining us a bit later because he's flying down from Cape Town. So if he makes it on time, he might appear. But secondly, we'll be introducing our guest speaker and guest professor to come and give his presentation. That is Professor Tomas Camacho. So without any waste of time, comrades, I'm going to give to Comrade Gonzalez, who is a good friend of mine who I met by chance. But I'm glad I met you, my friend, because today we are here.
Thank you. Thank you. We thank the Oliver Tambo School for organizing this activity that is an important step in strengthening relations between our countries among our revolutionary organizations. As you know, Venezuela is currently facing a serious threat of military intervention by the United States government, which, creating a false narrative, seeks to justify criminal intervention. But this is not the first time we have faced a threat. Practically, since its birth, the Bolivarian Revolution has been facing threats. The imposition of more than 1,000 unilateral coercive measures is one of them. In this multifactorial aggression, the attack on the economy is also a serious threat. But as we see, it is an aggression that they are now undertaking against everyone, including South Africa, with the imposition of tariff and in an arbitrary and exaggerated way. But we must see these measures in a more general context. Today, we have with us Professor Tomas Camacho from the Center for Historical Studies of Venezuela, who will talk to us about this topic. Professor Camacho is also a militant of the revolutionary who has fulfilled several responsibilities, such as having been Deputy Minister of Communal Economy. He is also an specialist on Africa and a soldier of the cause of the Global South, where the relationship between our region and Africa is a vital factor to resist and build. Without taking more time, comrade, I give the floor to Professor Tomas Camacho.
It's an honor to be with you. First of all, for family from the Embassy of Venezuela. I invite all of you to give an applause to our people, because I'm here because of them. They made it possible. Second to Oliver Tambo School. An applause for them, please, for your service. Because it's not only a school, it's a cause. It's a movement. And it's a passion. Without passion, there is no movement. So, we're going to start talking about peace geopolitics. Why so? Why to talk about peace? Because without peace, there is no war. Without peace, we have no chance, no opportunities to change the situation, the current situation we're living in. And I would like to start the following slide, please. We're going to talk about these concepts are there. The current geopolitical situation from a global south perspective. I'm going to talk from here because I'm Venezuelan. As you know, Venezuelan, South Africa is part, or we are part of the global south. And some guiding principles as search for peace, international cooperation, inter-civilizational dialogue, international justice and mediation, civilizational states, and regional integration and ethics in international relations. Here, I would like to point out the third we see there that is very important to us, the inter-civilizational dialogue. Why? Because in our conception, we are not only countries, we are civilizations, Bantu civilization. For me, as a researcher, we are the Bolivarian civilization. I have some countries. The case of Latin America is Nicaragua, Cuba, and Venezuela. That we share the same tradition of freedom, our struggle of freedom. And then we're going to see something about unilateralism, that are the tariffs, multilateralism, plurilateralism, multinodalism, multicentrism, civilizational states, and of course, the global agendas. This of tariffs that we are discussing all the time about Trump is part of a global agenda. So this, and here, just an extract to think about it. I'm not going to read it. I will let you read it. Because from here, we're going to take the essence of Benjamin. And it's here, in this line. The angel would like to stop. It's talking about an angel. This picture is from 1920. It is from Klein. So Angelus Novus is the name of that picture. But that angel is trying to fly, to ascend, and he's suffering because he's looking at the suffering, our suffering. But there is a tempest that is moving him away. And that tempest is what he calls progress. So this was exactly in the middle of the 90s when he wrote that. So if we think today, we must not conform ourselves, because imperialism is suffering. We need to confront our own ideas about what we know. Follow me, please. And here are some geographers. And why some geographers immediately? Because you don't think in the air, you think in your territory. You act in your territory. You don't think and act alone and without a space. This is why we are here in the Oliver Tambo School. We have a space. We have a territory. And most of them, as you see, are from the global south. The geographers. Africa, you got the first two. Then you have Sociache, that's from China. Then you have Milton Santos, Brazil. And then you have Ramon Tobac, that is from Venezuela. It's very important that we map and know very well our territory. Okay? Next, please. Then, when I'm here, I have some reasons to be here. I'm not here because I just want to have a picture with some friends of mine in South Africa. I came here because I have a call. And that call comes from first Bolivar, 1819. As you see here, you may see here the date, the year. What did he say? What did he say? To Venezuela. Do you know who is or who was Simon Bolivar? He's our liberator, not only from Venezuela, but from Ecuador, Colombia, Peru. He created Bolivia, and he created the Assembly Parliament, the Congress. And he said, let us keep in mind that our people are not European. Nor North American, which is rather a mixture of Africa and America, than an emanation of Europe. What are we? Mixture of Africa and America. 1819. Our father, Simon Bolivar, said to us that we are a mixture of Africans and Americans. 1819. The second phrase I brought here, Hugo Chavez. He said, Mother Africa lives in the heart of the Bolivarian Revolution. Just that phrase is strong enough to consider to be. Mother Africa lives in the heart of the Bolivarian Revolution. He's not saying we love Africa. He's not saying we think of Africa. He's not saying we will go to Africa. He's not saying we will colonize Africa. He's not saying we hear something of Africa. He said, Mother Africa is different. Lives in the heart of the Bolivarian revolution. And then our president, Nicolas Maduro, said, we pay tribute to the leaders of African independences, who are also our liberators. Kwame Nkrumah, Patrice Lumumba, Thomas Sankara, and many, many others, as Oliver Tambo. They taught us that freedom is not bad, or it is conquered. What did he say? The African leaders of independence are also our liberators. Why? Because the Bolivarian Revolution is a consequence of all the movements that started here in modern times. Yeah? And which are the difference between classical geopolitics and peace geopolitics? Determinism in classical, then in peace geopolitics, we have a complex interdependence. Why complex? Because it's not just defined today and unchanged. That will change. Every time we discuss, we learn a little. If we learn, we change. Today, I'm going to change a little because I came here to learn. When a professor arrives, it's not just to teach, but to learn. What is a professor? It's a learner. It's a permanent learner. Because I'm speaking now, but I want you to speak also. And then I have to write. And then I have to summarize. And then I have to talk again. And maybe you're going to say to me, Professor, are you crazy? All of that is a madness. And I will say, okay, thank you. I will have to write it down and to learn. Okay? Then the second one, the zero sum. The power of some implies the weakness of other. Have you ever heard Trump? Trump said at the United Nations recently, he said, all of you, the world, the countries of the world, who was in that meeting in United Nations? All the countries of the world. To whom he was speaking? To all the leaders of all the countries in the world. When he said to all our countries, all of you are useless. He said, I'm powerful because you are weak. And what we say in peace geopolitics, South cooperation, non-hegemonic, horizontal integration. Third, centrality of conflict. War is natural, it's normal. Conflict is normal. If you don't speak to Khoisan, don't worry, you may kill them. What? It's not normal. It's not right. It's not good. We don't need to be in conflicts. We need no conflicts. If we have to fight, we will. One you have here. Don't worry. It's okay. PR as the central pivot of everything. You understand this? PR? Do you know what is it? It's the most important for imperialism. You know what it means? You know? Public relations. What we call propaganda. You know what propaganda is? Okay, that's all for them. Everything they do is propaganda. Everything. We will see that. And for us, peace geopolitics, we say reality as the unique Bible of history. Reality. All the time. This is the following. Classical geopolitics. Where does it come from? Have you ever heard about Oliver Cox? Yeah? Have you ever heard about that? Have you ever read about him? Did you? No? It's easy. He's a Trinitarian. He's from the Trinidad Island, the Caribbean. He's the father of the tradition of analysis in historical materialism of world system. He's the father. We owe him all the comprehension of how to analyze the world, the system. Then world system by Oliver Cox has some categories. These are the categories or the concepts, the main concepts. Coloniality of power. Then coloniality of knowledge. Then coloniality of being. Maybe you're a militant of the left, but your speech, and your actions are colonial. It's not because you're bad people. It's not about that. I'm not denouncing you. I'm denouncing the system that is in the church, that is in the street, that is in the phone, that is in the class. Then colonial geopolitical continuities. What is it? Updated Monroe Doctrine, organization, extractivism, technological dependence, neo-apartheid, neo-slaverism. Which are the contemporary manifestations? Hybrid wars, love for soft power, economic sanctions. Do you think sanctions are only over Venezuela? No, you live in sanctions. You know that? Not from now. During colonization, after colonization, during apartheid, after apartheid, and nowadays. Why? I said it before. Because they are the power and they make us weak. Then cultural hegemony, imposition of Western values as universal. You may say to me, Professor, I think you're mistaken. Maybe. Why not? It's possible. But even if you speak Khoisan, even if you speak African, even if you speak Cosatu, even if you speak any ethno-linguistic branch of Bantu mother culture, it doesn't mean that you are not being colonized. it's probable that you are. Then, that financialization, monetary control as a geopolitical tool. Professor, and how so? Please, raise your hand if you have a plastic car for buying things. Please, raise your hand if you have a plastic car to make your purchase, to buy in the supermarket or anywhere. Okay, now raise your hand if you have a cell phone. Now raise your hand if you have a TV. Now raise your hand if you have a radio. Okay, welcome. Welcome, welcome, all of us. That's being weaponized to use our time, our space, and our being and transform it into money. Also, Professor, you're so crazy. Yeah, maybe I'm so proud of that. But let me tell you something that is very funny. Everything you do, everything you buy has been traced, recorded. Everything. I'm in Africa, Professor. That's in Venezuela. No, that's in the whole world. Now it's been proved in the global north. Let's say United States, let's say Europe. No? And the militarization, I don't need to explain this too much. This is very clear. But let me tell you something. There are some universities that have been used, weaponized by the CIA here in South Africa. That's in the news. You may check. Homework. Please, next. Then we have some classical geopolitics, late 19th century. You know, this is from the 19th century. This is about geopolitics, this concept, geopolitics. Huh? From German, British, or Britain, United States, French. Huh? This is the main schools. And the thinkers. These are the thinkers you're going to see everywhere. This is how they think. United States intelligence, or the 5 eyes. Do you know what the 5 eyes are? Are the central intelligence agencies that are in the 5 main countries that after the Second World are surveilling the whole world. Do you know that? Did you know that? That's no. That's no. But this are the work and the ideas. There is a vital space. There is a Harlan. There is a Rimland, or there are some Rimlands, and there is a human geography. This. And then, the first of all, the founder, Ratzel, 1844, and he died 1904. He said, the territory is a human being. If we listen to that, we will say, oh, it's very nice, that idea. It's a human being. It's an organic being. It's a living thing. It's nice. It's good. That idea is terrific. Please do remember this idea. Anthropogeography states as living organism. Look at the date, 1844, 1904. Remember the date, remember the concept. Because we're going to see it after. the good thing of this propaganda age is a propaganda age that started at the very beginning of the century that passed away recently. I mean, the 20th century, is that the propaganda is still alive. It's the same concept. He said, and I will state here, states, countries fit into a serious expansion phenomenon of life, being the highest point of this phenomenon. What does it mean? We have to expand. We have to grow. But when I say we, or he said we, who are we? Who is that we? Are Africans? Are Venezuelans? Are South Africans? Please go back one slide. Please go back one slide. Ratzel. Where is it? It's German. Oh, okay. Thank you for German people. Yeah? Okay. Let's go to the following. Yeah. And he said, there is a law. We have a special law for growing. Not that we are growing. No, there is a special law for that. And rapidly, the extent of state increases with the development of the culture. Remember that for Europeans, we got no culture. The south of the world, we the people, we have no culture. But you don't speak any language. There are a few languages. Some philosophers said that there is only one language in the world. You know what is it? German. So if you want to learn philosophy, when I started studying philosophy, my professor told me, if you want to learn very good philosophy, you must have French. And then with French, you will start English. And then with English, you will start German. Because German is the perfect language of the world. And I said, I want to study philosophy, professor. I didn't come here to study languages. But our language, this Spanish, it's not a language. What? Yeah. There's only one language, German. Then, the extent of states increases with the development of the culture. Who has culture? For him, only Europe. Then he continues. But the last one in this page is very important. He said, the general tendency is like something natural, you know? It's the tendency. It's natural. You know, Jews are killing Gazatis. What's no? It's the tendency, you know? Because they don't have a God. There are no persons. They must be dead. It's a tendency. What? What are you talking about? The general tendency to assimilate or absorb the weaker nations. Weaker nations. And what is weak? We're going to see these. You're taking some photo, you're writing, you're going to see this after. This is 1901. How many years have passed? How many? 124. Something, no? Let's go to the other one. And this was the map. This is the map of the problem. This is why there are wars. Everything. And this is why we don't exist. If you see, this is the pivot area. What area is that? What countries there, mainly? In the middle is Russia, but all that is Asia, is a block. Who controls, the natural seats of power, pivot area, wholly continental, outer crescent, wholly oceanic, inner crescent, partly continental, partly oceanic. But when was that written, for God's sake? 1901. Okay, let's go there. The next. The geographic basis of foreign policy. What the states do? What do they do? How do they think? He said, geopolitics, the last one, must be above all a tool to construct an effective foreign policy that must be transmitted onto the people in order to secure the construction of the state. What state? South African state, Venezuelan state, Cuban state? No. Next. And here, that goes on. It doesn't stop. 1944, Speakman. And he says something pretty nice. The main idea, abolish the independent sovereignty of nations. Is it clear? It's not my idea, it's not what I'm saying about Speakman. It's what he said in 1944. Next, please. And this is the Club of Rome. Do you know what the Club of Rome is? Have you ever heard about the sustainability? No? Bingo. Club of Rome. Have you ever heard about the Agenda 2030? Ah, bingo. Club of Rome. But that was in 1950. Okay. This is the division of the world for them. This is the plan, the main plan. Let's see. How's Africa? And how's Latin America and the Caribbean? We have number 6, South American Union. One union, that's all. What we have in Africa? Number 7, Arab Custom Union. Number 8, African Union. And then number 4, Pacific Union. That's all. From 54 states to 3. Next, please. And here, the Club of Rome and sustainable development. 1948 was created, but how? 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 Do you know Leonardo, his company? Do you know that name? Do you know that name? Do you know the Prime Minister of Italy? Do you know who is? How is she called? What is her name? That's Giorgia Meloni. Bingo! She was the CEO of Leonardo. You see? Everything is just. But what is Leonardo? A defense company. Then, institutions. There you are, MIT, Volkswagen, central objective. Very well. But who is it there? Do you read there? Can you read from there? Is it possible? You have a person from here that is in the club of Rome. Do you see it? It's here. No? Manfella Ramphele, Vice President, South Africa, PhD from the University of Cape Town in social anthropology. You see? Next. And how is the work? How is it? Workers, working time, and work intensity by region between 1995 and 2021. Total number of worker employees, up by 1,000. Global North, 450,000. But on the Global South, 2 million. Increase or the change, 148, 33%, but in the Global South, 93. Then total labor rendered millions of hours. This is not mine. This is from Jason Hickel and some other researchers from the London School. Level time per worker, hours. You see? But you see here, all the time we give away to them. You see that? Next, please. That goes on. Northern net appropriation of southern labor time by skill level. Also, and you see it? There's still our time. We're talking about 900 billion net appropriation level time. Next, please. As you see here, by sector, agriculture, mining, manufacturing, services, other. There's still the time we use for each area. Next, please. The wage value of drain from the Global South. Do you understand that name of this slide? How do they drain? How much do they drain? 18 trillion. There are millions of millions from 1995 to 2021. Here was 6 trillion, but now, 4 years ago, was almost 16, 17 trillion. Next, please. And this is the huge amount by area. Capital drain from the Global South, 1960 to 2017. Sub-Saharan Africa, South Asia, Latin America, peripheral Europe, North Africa, the Middle East and Central Asia, Southeast Asia and the Pacific, China. And where all that money goes? Well, Global North. Please, next. This professor is a brilliant mind. Hernan Camacho said, it's significant that we're the supposedly superior commercial organization of 18th century Europeans had to compete with merchants from other regions of the old world without using force. Their results were mediocre. You see? If they don't steal our money, our resources, they are not rich. Their richness is our poverty. Then he said, only the opposite colonization and arms trade of European financial institutions, fueled by a system of competent states financed by debt, gave Europe a crucial advantage. Let's get inside the mindset of the global north. Let's get in the frame of our historical materialism. As you have seen, as you have read, I am Marxist. I use the method of Marx. It is historical materialism. He said, we may see more clearly the factors or key elements that are essential to transform our actual state of the thing. I mean, the present time. That could be defined as the drift of the global north to the most dangerous there is a mistake here. It's geopsychiatric effect. Some kind of monstrous behavior that attempts against any form of humanity. It isn't the consequence of deprivations or lack of conditions, but the result of decades of PR. Campaigns that their own elites had finally assumed as reality. Then Lewis Carroll and George Orwell are the only way out of such a trap. Yes. And here they are. Do you know that guy? Stephen Millen? Have you ever heard about him? It's very dangerous. Very dangerous. For real. He's a real monster. You want to see? I'm sorry for that, but I'm going to show some monsters. Sorry. Then, who is that guy? He's now in the Fed, the Federal Reserve. But he's also the chief advisor for the US Economic Council. And what? He said in 2024, he wrote this, before Trump won the elections. One suggestion put forth in PASA 2024 is for any accord to incorporate the Duration Agreement. You know, the agreement in Mar-a-Lago is illegal, but it's an agreement. PASA hermeneutics of the remarks of likely economic policy leaders in a second Trump administration explicitly links the US provision of a security umbrella, blah, 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 blah. It's entitled the following Mar-a-Lago. It's entitled like this. This is very important. This is the key for the next years of the United States. First of all, security zones. They consider the world as security zones for them. And if you understand security zones, then you understand tariffs, because they apply tariffs to security zones. He said, are a public good. For whom? For who? For me? Is my part? For us? No. For the United States? No. For the elite, for the little group. And countries on the inside must fund by buying treasuries. You know, do you understand this first line? They want all the world to buy letters of the treasury. You understand that? Do you know what the people said? We don't want to buy bonds from your treasury. We don't want to put $1 there. They don't want security zones are a capital good, not only public good. Now they are a capital good. They are best funded by century bonds. Oh, here's the party. Century bonds. No short-term bills. Why is it important? Or important? Why? Because they're changing the treasury bonds to 5 years, 10 years. Now they have century bonds. Oh, one. How many years is it? How many years? 100 years. Who is going to put money for 100 years? Who's going to be alive after 100 years? It's robbery. They're saying here, we are robbery. Huh? Then the third one, security zones have barbed wires. Interesting. Unless you swap your bills for bonds, tariffs will keep you on. And somebody scream, hallelujah, and came Trump with the tariff, you know. This is the very genesis of tariffs. And this was written in 2024. And then this January, everybody was like, what is it? What a surprise. How is that you are surprised? It was written a year before to strengthen their own currencies. Reserve managers must sell dollars. Key element of all. To strengthen their own currencies, reserve managers must sell dollars. Why? Why? Because they want to sell new dollar. It's called digital dollar. See? Then, as the currency appreciates, the United States will receive a competitiveness advantage, helping our tradable and manufacturing sectors. Next, please. While our security zones is applied to G7, India, others, no integrated, People's Republic of China, Russian Federation, and Venezuela. Both. Next. Kevin Roberts. Oh. Nice master also. What they say? This is very nice. If you see it, it's very nice. But this is, let's make America white again. It's not MAGA, it's MAWA. It's a very, very, very dramatic drift. They say, restore the family. What family? Black family? Indian family? White family. Okay. Dismantle the administrative state and return self-governance to the American people. Also, get everyone one weapon and kill them all. Then defend our nation, sovereignty, borders, and bounty against global threats. Seriously? Seriously? 4, secure our God-given, this is very dramatic also, God-given, only for them? There's only one God? Or only one people? One kind of God? This is very dramatic. Eh? And then, what our Constitution calls the blessings of liberty. So, if we are in liberty here, we are not blessed. This is no liberty. We are not the chosen people, because the chosen people is MAWA. MAWA, yeah, make America white again. Please, next. Another monster, Peter Navarro. This is propaganda. As you see, vectors of communist China economic aggression in the technology of and IP space. Communist China. Propaganda. Next, please. Peter Navarro said, contain threats from Russia and China. All, everything is said in this book, he resumed it. He summarized it to contain threats from Russia and China. One question I have is that Russia and China have border with the United States? Do they have borders? I think they are far away each other. I think so. Next, please. And these are all the tariff. He started, then he went, and up, and up, and up. And he came here. But he said, and he cut it. He said it again, he cut it again. Why? Because he wants, the United States wants all the world to be a friend. Why? To buy the treasury bonds. Century treasury bonds. It's not the tariff. The tariff is the way to make all the population of the world be a friend of the United States. Next, please. And this is the last, from August 6th to September 25. The last thing that have been said about tariff and the lately acts that have been done lately. Every day you're going to read about tariff, but tariff is not the goal. It's not the objective. The objective is money. But no money to tariff. But to century bonds is the other one. And this says all. I don't have to explain too much about this. It says, there is no sign. All the countries are paying for Trump tariff. There's no sign. I'm not saying it. It is Financial Times. Not Tomas Camacho. Tomas Camacho is presenting it. It's so dramatic that I don't have to make too much of it. Everything is just done. Please, the next. Impact of imposed tariff on US. Reciprocal higher. Where? China, Canada, Mexico, India, Brazil, Canada. But who's paying for this? Exactly. The population of the United States. Next, please. And here, how? The president is hoping that his tariffs will help protect US jobs and encourage companies to invest more in the country, as well as raise government revenue. But many economists have said that the tariffs will hurt growth as higher prices for goods with the squeezy on household budgets and companies' profit margins. And this economist, that is one of the best, Michael Hudson, Professor Michael Hudson, is that this is from September 21st, recent. The Trump tariffs are raising US industrial cost of production. Of course, they have no steel. They have no steel to produce machinery. And they have to change every year machinery for the production. Then they say only the John Deere company is losing. The market is losing the company and is paying for tariff. Please, next. And here, what I call a delusional state. Real delusion. The photo of the Messiah. Do you remember the photo of Angelus Novus? The first I put? And you see that picture? Do you see is similar. He's an angel. This is an angel. He's the angel of Mawa. But nobody laughed because it's delusional. But we know it's delusional. But if we say the same in the United States, in a white community, everybody's going to stand up and scream hallelujah. I've seen it. Then he said in the UN, your countries are going to help. Then climate change is a con job. What? Then he said, there are two N words. And you can use either of them. You know the two N words? You know what are they? The first is nuclear, but the second is nigger. Huh? Huh? Do you think I'm joking with this masterclass? I'm showing you realities. Then in Quantico speech, with all the generals and all the admirals, you know, all the fat people, very, 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 very fat people, and all people that stay. Very, very fat, not so fat. Very fat. Then he said, America is under invasion from within. And the faces of the people that were, what? And then he said, we will be a fighting and winning machine. What? We should use some of these dangerous cities, very carefully do this, as training grounds for our military. Do you know what he's referring to? What cities? He's not talking about Caracas. He's not talking about Johannesburg. He's talking about Chicago. He's talking about New York. Why? Because the United States, it's in a civil war since Trump first. It's in a civil war. Then, can you help me there? Thank you. Sorry for the monsters. But where are we? What is the global south? This is the global south. So why are we afraid of joining, being together? Why, if we are the majority of the world, why are we afraid of being together? Why are not being respected in our countries? Why? Why youth being criminalized? Why? And we permit that. We shouldn't. We are some about like, 141 countries, and the world has 195. I think we are majority, no? So we must change the world. Huh? Please, next. And here, I don't know if you may understand that. Money sent or brought back by migrants is almost 3 times as much as global aid. What does it mean? People here is coming, Europeans and Americans maybe are coming because they are going to help. They're going to help us because we need the help. Oh, sure. It says that we don't need the help. It's not me. It's sorry, I'm going to use my glass. I don't see very much there. It says, World Bank. Oh, what year? 2024. I'm like this. But we need help, much help, but we have the money. How is it? How is it that we need the money from the global north, and the money is ours. We got the money. Not a little money. Money sent abroad back by migrants. Oh. Oh. Next. And this is so nice. It's so cute. Look at that. Migrants almost pay more in international fees. You know fees? You know what is it? It's money, and they rate you something, you know, to send money home than US and in 2023. You know, you say, you remember you say? Yeah? Yeah. Okay. Do you remember that? Okay. Fees are almost the equivalent of the money they are using to spy, to create conflicts, to divide our societies, to manipulate our data. But it's for help. We need that help. Sorry. Then BlackRock is very worried also. BlackRock is very worried for the world. Why? He said, global trade, major cyber attacks, US China strategic competition, major terror attacks, more attacks, you know, propaganda, emerging market political crisis, a little. Then a little here. Russia-NATO conflict, it doesn't matter, it's Russia, it's there. Middle East regional war, that's Israel, that doesn't matter, it's there. And now Korea conflict. And of course, market pricing. And of course, market attention. Next, please. And here, global geopsychiatry. Why? Because it studies the interface between geography and psychiatry, focused on the impact and effects of climate change, disaster, globalization, population growth, and movement. The urban agglomerations, agricultural production, industrialization, geopolitics, socioeconomic transformation, and cultural practices on mental health, mental illness process. And they mention here some areas. Next, please. And which is the level system? This is what I'm trying to show you to continue searching and research here. Ontological level, central question, what is geopsychiatry? Reality and how does it exist? Epistemic level, axiological level, methodological level, axiological level. This is for researchers. Tomas, I insist, I would like to have some researcher from here, from this movement, from the Oliver Tambo. Next, please. And this is what we have in global north. The ethics of global north that are reproduction of domination and exploitation, hyper-consumerism. It's not consumerism, hyper-consumerism. I need that phone. I need, we don't say I want to. We say I need it. I need it. You need water. You need air. You need food. You need love. You need patience. You need peace. But you don't need a phone. Then, over-indebtedness. Everybody is in debt. All of us. If we say no, you're lying, huh? You're very lying. And today is Friday, and you know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying. I will stop there. And if you're women, I've seen the women the malls. Abandonment of the human being, that doesn't matter. Let him go. That baby is going to grow up alone. He wants to stay alone. He's a kid. He's strong. He's young. It doesn't matter. Then the neo-narcissism. If I find a mirror, like here, window, and I'm going to stand in front of the mirror, and I'm going to look so handsome. You know, I look better. Every day I look better. Forget about the mirror. Live the reality. Reality is not the mirror. Reality is not your phone. Reality is not your car. Reality is your life. Then, chronic addictions. You know the addictions, you know? Have you seen that? Chronic addiction. There are societies, entire societies, that are consumed by drugs. For respect for the populations, I'm not going to mention anyone. But there are lots of videos. And then the nihilism. And what is nihilism? The nihilism is when you abandon yourself. Yourself. You decide to abandon yourself. Not to trust in yourself. You prefer to abandon yourself. And then fascism, Nazism, Zionism, terrorism, all together. They are brother. They are in the same farm. They live together. Believe me, when you listen to any president of the United States, you see all that together. All that. Please, next. And impossibility. It's impossible to continue like that. It's impossible. They know it, and they are resisting. They're trying to take some more time. They're trying hard. That photo of that 80 years old Trump, looking like an angel that is going to fly, you know, it's on the fall. Stay. Internal contradiction of the hegemonic system, capital labor, automation versus mass employment, center periphery. It doesn't exist for you, but human nation, democracy, capitalism, structural limits, collapse indicators. There are some more. This next. And then, this is from this year. This is Alexander Karp. Do you know who is Alexander Karp? Alexander Karp is the CEO of a company called, Palantir Technologies. Everyone that has, yeah, for real. Okay, for real. Let's go. This is the new digital ID. This is Alexander Karp. You know who is this guy? Of the United Kingdom, Prime Minister. Go to the next. Okay. Do you know this guy that is called Adebayo Ogunlesi? Do you know that guy? You know who is it? No? Important to know. Because he was part of the foreign advisor from Strategic and owns and managed the control of airports and energy assets here in Africa. Part of Goldman Sachs board investment decision affecting critical infrastructure here in Africa. Next. This is next. Next. There are some new geopolitics. Next. Next. Let's see. And we my idea is that we need a new rationality. This is, I think, important. Principles of a new rationality: plurality, prosody, complementarity, cyclicity, existing decolonial experience, indigenous movement, Tianzism, Eurasianism, Bolivarianism, experience of integration, African philosophy, Ubuntu as the foundation of rationality. Next. And this book is very important. This book from Professor Wang Wen, I think is very important. Because he said we are in some changes, civilizational shift that had not occurred in 100 years, technological which had not occurred in 400 years, institutional in 300 years, university knowledge in 200 years, power in 100 years, that cannot be simply attributed to the decline of the West. You know? Next. And, well, next. And I try to show this as a possibility principle. Commune, equal territory, equal culture, equal means of production, of production, concrete how, and the demands for this. Next. And this is very interesting. We're going to, I think, close here. Do you know that? This is going to change everything in energy, in money, in production. China's breakthrough, Orion discovery promises 60,000 years of clean energy. Thank you for your attention. Well, sorry.
Prof, can we please give him one last round of applause? One last round of applause. I'm going to ask Lerato, can you please just come closer to the desk and stop sharing? Yeah, and then I just have to adjust this because some adjustments. So I'm the technical guy, I'm also the MC. You know, that's what an organizer does, you know. My principal always says, when you're an organizer, you must be prepared for any situation. So, Prof, thank you very much. I think you've given us more than a mouthful. You have taken us through the history of geopolitics. You've given us the cause and effect of why we are here. But you also went further to say, what is the end goal of all of this? And I think that's very important. And I think if you had more time, you're going to say, what is it that you recommend us to do moving forward? So I think, Principal, we might have to take this presentation and break it down into other master classes, because I think he has just given us a syllabus up until next year. Yeah. But I think it's a very important presentation because it begins to say, what is it that we're not thinking about as the progressive left when we see all of these texts around tariffs, when we see this war between Israel and Gaza, or in fact, the genocide that is being committed by Israel on Gaza? What is it that we're not seeing when, you know, Trump is dismissing climate change? What is the end goal? You know? And there are a lot of things to think about, especially when you consider us in Africa around our rich mineral resources, as to what type of new conversations should we have. So thank you very much, Prof, for that. I think, as I said, you've given us more than a mouthful. There's one particular slide that I think is important, Comrade Masu, that we need to study. That slide that ends with zero ethics at the end. We need to really, really study that for ourselves. We don't want to hang our dirty linear in front of guests, but I think you help me when I say we need to study that particular, because it begins to give us a theoretical basis of the challenges that we're having. Why are we here? This polycrisis that we're seeing right now in the country, I think that slide is very important for us to make sense of those challenges that we have. So I'm not going to waste any time, comrades, because we started late and we don't want people to leave here late. So I've agreed with the principal at the back that, in fact, we will do a sum up rather than coming now. So what we're going to do, we're going to have two respondents, which I'll give about 10 minutes each before I open up to the floor. There's one TK over there, Comrade Lerato, if you can find him and unmute him. He's going to be presenting from Zoom because he's unable to join us. He's in another country. Dr. TK Poe is a lecturer at the Vet School of Governance. If I'm not mistaken, he is lecturing in international relations, but he has also been advisor for the Gauteng government and for the national government for different departments. So he will be the one who's going to give us his first response on what the prof said. And Prof, if you don't agree with anything, when you come back and respond at the end, you can challenge some of those views. It's a dialogue at the end of the day. We must debate these issues. Comrade TK, please go ahead. You can unmute yourself. Might have to assist there. Comrade TK. Let's do this. I think you can unmute now, Comrade TK.
All right. No, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. No, thank you so much, Kefenzo, and thank you to the good professor for, I think, what was an exposition in from the past to, I think, where we currently are, and like you said, questions about what comes next. As Kefenzo said, I can't touch on everything, but I would touch maybe 2 or 3 central points I think the professor raises, which should be provocations for, I think, the room, for South Africa, not only South Africa, but I think I would say the rest of the global South. Just your first point, Professor, where you talk about challenging coloniality and pursuing sovereignty. I think one of the most interesting statistics, I know you didn't touch on it, but I think the ethos came out, is global trade has reached, as of 2024, it's 33 trillion US dollars. And the US only accounts for about 4 trillion of that. And 29 trillion, which is 80% of the total trade, occurs outside America. So the key question from this, I think, statistic and what you're saying is challenging coloniality is the key question of, if we do see, and I think the tariffs kind of clearly illustrate that a lot of the trade is occurring outside the US. Why has the global South, been unable to monetize its, I would say, its 29 trillion or 88% of trade outside the US to the levels where the US becomes irrelevant? And I think this is maybe what Kefenzo speaks about when he says we need to speak about the financialization of the global of the global economy. I believe, and I think, look, with obviously, yeah, you have to give credit to the Chinese government. They seem to be one of the few governments that has been able to truly understand what does it mean to have a financialized global economy, and the fact that you can put levers and controls on it. And here I refer to how they were able to take the US administration to a trade table and go tit for tat. Obviously, it's now at a point of negotiations, but I think there should be lessons for the rest of the global South to learn, especially for a country like South Africa, where while our great trading partners, I think it is the Chinese, it's the Chinese European Unions, and then the Americans. But in reality and truth, I don't think our foreign policy and our trade policy has really caught up with what you're speaking about, Professor, which is that we should be looking south for mass industrialization and for the new types of industries you speak about. We are still, I think, what I term in the gaze of the United States of America, the 4 trillion monster that hangs around a global trade. So I think you have challenged us to say, our policy speaking to the fact that we need to understand that the biggest middle class 2030 for purposes of trade and industry is going to be in Asia, as you're speaking about. But is our policy speaking and understanding that? And on that report, I would say that I don't think our governments are quite there yet. So I think you have given us a provocation to think about how do we move away from simply saying we still want to export what is dug in the ground to a point of being a place where we can make value and goods. Because if you do not have that in this new global economy, you're simply repeating the mistakes of the past, as you've correctly stated. But then there is a second danger, and I'm glad that, and I think you're probably one of the few, the acknowledgement of what the United States of America is. You often hear commentators in South Africa and other places simply just say, listen, we can't get off and under the United States of America. They make it seem like it's a simple endeavor, that it simply just occurs out of a whim without planning, and that the goodwill that you want to extricate from this should be good enough by itself. But I think you would agree, Professor, that we are at a stage where we know what needs to be done, but it's the question of the tools and the tools of the trade so that we can get out under the United States of America. For instance, 2.2% of South Africa of our exposure to the United States of America. Yes, 2.2 seems like a very low number until you start to attach that there's about 400 or 426,000 jobs also in the automotive industry in some of the most vulnerable provinces of the country. Here you speak about the Eastern Cape, you speak about places, some even in Gauteng, Rossland, I think the Ford factory which is there, and the fact there's about 7.5 billion US dollars worth of investment in South Africa. So it is a question of, you don't simply get out under the problem that we find ourselves in. And even if you bring in the European Union, even if you bring in the African Union, conditions about BRICS, where are the real levers of change that allow us to be able to say, listen, this 2.2, even though it's a small number when you look at it, but when you actually quantify it properly in terms of jobs and value and companies that are in South Africa, how do we truly move away from that? And I think this is where a lot of global South countries do struggle. The ability to be able to make these moves. Now here, obviously, as I said, there is counterpoint. There are examples we can use. We always use the Chinese government, but we have to understand that it did not start 10 years ago. It did not start 20 years ago. This has been long in the making. And sometimes I feel, unfortunately, a lot of global South countries and a lot of rhetoric and even the theorization of how you get out under the United States of America only ends at a level of rhetoric. It has not come into policy. It has not come into institutions. And I think South Africa is no different. We still suffer from the gaze of the American behemoth when it comes to these things. We have not truly explored what we mean by regional integration and South-South cooperation to the level where we can actually make it financial sense for our companies and for our citizens. And until we do that, it will simply be an exercise in more theoretical posturing. And we cannot get away from the fact that unless you give citizens who have been hamstrung by poverty, who have had to live through the effects of post-apartheid and post-colonialism, unless you can give them something materially beneficial to them, you literally will forever be stuck in this gaze of the United States. And the third point, which I will quickly briefly touch on, is I think it's a question where you speak about decolonization of knowledge for African-led solutions. And I think you ended it quite well by looking at the fact that science and technology is the future, but science and technology and the financialization is also what might hamper the global South's ascension. And by that, I mean, if you look at our institutions of higher learning, you are correct to challenge institutions of higher learning in South Africa. But I think it goes simply beyond about control and command from the global North. But it's a question of what is being taught. And I think the room probably will also be able to better make a judgment of this, that when we still do teach, when we still do look at the economy, and we speak about, let's say, a decolonized knowledge system, it still has reference to we want to be is it a question of we want to be different from the North, or we simply want to replace the North, or do you want to be something new altogether? And I think those are the types of conversations when we speak about decolonization of the economy and technologies we have yet to get to. It sometimes goes to a simple conversation to say, if you replace what the Europeans and the Americans give us, we should be able to be in a place of nirvana. I think you would agree that that really is not the case, which then underpins the question of when we speak about a global South type agenda when it comes to the purposes of knowledge, what does that really look like? And what my worry is that if you look at the moment, if you look at the biggest, I would say, if you look at the stock exchange in America, what's holding up the stock exchange? What's holding up the stock exchange in America, and the reason why America has not fully gone into recession, is the technology firms, the big ones, your Googles, your Nvidias, those types of companies. And what sort of worries me is that the only counterpoints to these big companies has been DeepSeek in China. What does it say about the rest of the global South? That we're not fully cognizant of the fact that unless we're able to produce these types of entities and these types of new, what I term monsters of the economy of the future, we are simply going to be taken. So you might disagree, you might wholeheartedly dislike what America brings, but you are correct in saying until the cell phone in your pocket, until the language model, the large language model you're using reflects our geography and where we would like to go in the future, we're still simply stuck in the gaze of what I term Americanism. And I think that is the biggest danger for what the economy, what even decolonial knowledge could look like. We need to be able to be producing our own types of scientists that are comfortable in the global South, that are able to get the types of funding so that you can set up these large language models, which wholly rely on data and finance. And when I speak about education, one might say the miracle or the blood or the veins of the American system as it relates to technology and the big firms. Yes, it is capital, which I think speculates a lot on the value of these companies like NVIDIA. But the true knowledge comes from the institutions of higher learning. When you look at the budgets that are ascribed to science and technology in terms of what they are allowed to do, the ability to allow for young people to use their imaginations to dream about what the next economies might look like, that is the miracle of America. And I fear that we in the global South have not been able to do that to the levels needed, where we're allowed to unleash the potential of our young people in areas of science and technology, where it also meets the humanities, because that's what the new technological economy is about. It's a measure of the hard sciences and the social sciences to understand the human being, to give them a better product. But as you said, without ethics, it becomes very dangerous. And I feel, and this is where maybe I'll probably linger on to a fourth point, where you said, when you gave a synopsis of the global, or of the geopolitics, I feel in a way we should be encouraging and we should actually be glad to see people like President Trump, because President Trump has taken away the veneer of what the global North is about. If anyone in the room is under delusion that all of this doing is because of President Trump, I think they were not listening to your lecture. Look at the American system, the Monroe Doctrine. America has always been like this. What we should be thankful to President Trump is he's just simply taken off the Band-Aid such that we see what America is. In the case of South Africa, I hear a lot of commentators harping on about President Trump, but we have to understand our tariffs and some of the, I would say, the impositions about what our politics might look like did not start under President Trump. They actually started under Biden. The questioning of who, because I think that also maybe brings to the question how the inability to pick friends in the North correctly. People will go after Trump, but forget that Biden, who was a Democrat, and I know South Africa, we have a relationship with a Democrat, but it was a Democrat president that allowed for many of the things Trump's regime is imposing on South Africa to start the conversation. So again, have our institutions caught up to the reality of what is really happening? Or do we still just look at this as an ideological lens to say bad Republican, good Democrat, when in truth, it is an American? There is no American president that serves other countries. Well, Israel apart. All American presidents serve America's behest. And I think what we should enjoy about President Trump is, one, he is showing you that the system is truly does not care about the global South. And if we're under any illusions about that, he's showing you this. So, but I guess where I would challenge you for, Prof, is you speak about, and this is what would be my closing defense, you speak about that we are at nihilism. I would argue in the case of South Africa, that is not wholly correct. And for this, I'll go to, I think it was a 2006 lecture by former President Thabo Mbeki. He posits it, and I think it's still true in many of our political elites. He doesn't call it nihilism, he calls it hedonism. And I'll just take a quote from him where he says, and I quote, "Thus every day and during every hour of our time, beyond sleep, the demons embedded in our society, that talk us at every minute, seem always to beacon each one of us towards a realizable dream and a nightmare. With every passing second, they advise with rhythmic and hypnotic regularity, get rich, get rich, get rich." And thus it has come about that many of us accept that our common natural instinct to escape from poverty is but the other side of the same coin, on whose reverse side are written the words, at all costs, get rich, get rich. And I close quote. So, Professor, where I would disagree with you looking at the South African case, especially our political elite, and one only has to listen at what's happening currently at the, I think it's the commission, we should call it a commission, Gefense, I think we'll give you the technical term for what we term this commission, is that we have a political elite that has taken us towards hedonism. That's all they aspire to be. And this hedonism is what now ingratiates, I would say, the South African society, the desire, the hunger to get rich at the expense of everyone within it. We sell institutions, we sell ESCOM, we sell each and every institution that has the ability to really reverse the poverty in the country. It's not nihilism, it's a worship of money and the ability to get rich, get rich. So Professor and Kefenso, I don't want to take too much time because I know there's another respondent, but I'll just say those would be my retorts towards the professor.
Thank you very much, TK, for that. You've also given us a mouthful. The lecture that you quoted by former President Tambo was actually the Nelson Mandela lecture that he delivered in 2006. I think it was the third, not fourth, at Wits University. I still say again from your response, Comrade TK, that last slide that you engaged, Comrade Tambo there at the back, you must come back and engage that slide. You can already hear there are very interesting debates arising from. It is my view, Comrade Masuku, that that slide, if it were up to me, I would say next week, let's gather again and just focus on that slide. I think it's very important. Thank you so much, Dr. TK, for engaging the lecture. Surely people were listening to you. You're not speaking alone. No? There's also people joining us online, as you can see. We thank you, comrades, and we'll share the presentation with you. So I won't waste any time. I'm going to call Comrade Tenge Tengela, who is the Secretariat for International Relations. For International Relations is Comrade Bongani Masuku. You are the Secretariat for Trade and Industry. So you can approach and then please also have your 10-15 minutes to bite on what the professor has given us.
Thank you very much to the ambassador. Thank you very much, and good evening, ambassador, the principal of the Tambo School, professor. It is a great pleasure to participate in this discussion. This is a timely discussion that we need to have, particularly as the people of the Global South, and begin a process of dealing with the challenges that Prof. you were identified. The first issue, it is becoming very clear that the Trump administration, following from the Biden administration, is continuing to undermine global trade multilateralism. It is undermining also a rules-based trade regime, which is a product of the post-World War order. And this order came as a result of avoiding further global polarization and wars. And the emerged international trade architecture that came as a result of that post-World War was to avoid further regression or further deterioration to a Great Depression. Because global protectionism that emerged, that led to Second World War, was a result of global protectionism. And I think that where we are today in the global economy, we have retrogressed, we've gone back to what the global leaders who met by then sought to avoid. So we are in a situation wherein these international trade wars may lead to further real wars that may lead to hundreds and millions of thousands of people globally to lose their power. So I'd like to start from where you ended, the issue of global cooperation. Not purely global cooperation. I think we need to talk about, firstly, South-South cooperation for the institution of a new international world order. And that new international world order, its starting point is to appreciate the fact that what has led to the situation in which we're in now was the emergence of neoliberalism that we've cited as a dominant phase of capitalism, which has actually deindustrialized globally, the global north. The response by Trump and the shift to right fundamentalism and the protectionism, what is in the form of green protectionism today, is the result of the appreciation by the global north that neoliberalism is brought about in more ways, has brought about deindustrialization, the decline in the productive basis of both the North, the US, and Japan. And this is also the current situation we find ourselves is also as a result of technological rivalry and competition between, on the other hand, China, the European Union, and the US. And the response by Trump is to try to bring about a reindustrialization of the United States economy at the expense of the global South. And it is an attempt to insert the global South as a supplier of raw materials in the form of green minerals, and allowing the global South to remain as an importer of finished goods and products from the global North. So the relation of subjugation is what they make America great is centered around. But one of the issues I think I want to take further with you, it's around the weaponization of global trade. Because global trade, as we speak now, has been weaponized. There is a direct link, or to put it another way, that industrial policy is quite at the service of national security interests. So there is no distinction, the relationship, there's a stronger relationship today between global North industrial policies and their national securities. If you look at the United States national security strategy for the African continent, it's quite clear it is at the service of the US to advance its industrialization imperatives. So the global national security strategy, it's about securing critical minerals to the African continent. How is that going to be achieved? Is the EU global getaway? The other measures that the United States are engaging in are about securing critical minerals from the African continent to fuel green industrialization in the global world. What is that? It's called green imperialism. It's called green colonialism, to deal with the slide that you have presented. I think the key fundamental question now, when to come to that last point that you made around global cooperation, I think the cooperation between the South must be a cooperation, that must be a meaningful cooperation around technological transfer. You know, for example, to give you an example, we now know that China spent about 220 billion US dollars on entering renewable energies to dominate green technologies. So that is the key leader of the BRICS bloc. So there needs to be, because it's a leader in these new technologies. So we need to enter into partnerships and cooperation around technological transfer and other. So that is the first point with your slide around global cooperation. We need global cooperation to isolate also this US imperialist agenda. We need the South to speak with one voice in the international platforms to pursue a progressive developmental agenda and a progressive transformation of the multilateral system, which was brought about after the Second World War. So there's a need for the global cooperation of the South to advance this kind of agenda that I've already outlined. We also need a global cooperation of the South and the solidarity to deal with the problems that the global economy is facing. We are witnessing the proliferation or growth of pandemics in the global economy. And we have seen that global cooperation between South Africa, China, and Latin American economies was able to assist in the response to COVID-19. So we need more of that cooperation to cooperate in sharing resources around resolving some of these problems. The other point I want to make is that our global cooperation must be also, if you remember, part of the problem which led to the persistence of the global economic crisis, even today, was because of the premature withdrawal of the global macroeconomic stimulus, which actually was led by the Chinese economy, which starved the tendency towards a Great Depression. So part of what I'm saying is that we further need global cooperation to coordinate a global stimulus, because what neoliberalism has brought about are low growth rates because of low investment, because as a result of austerity. And therefore, the response of the global South is to steer global economies towards growth, development, and the structural transformation, because the economies of the global South are still locked in economic activities that are of diminishing returns and to economic activities that are of increasing returns. The core task of developing economies that we continue to face has been and still remains structural transformation. We need to drive structural transformation. We need to use our critical minerals to drive resource-based industrialization strategies. For example, South Africa and Zimbabwe have 80% of platinum metals group metals deposits. So and Russia has 20%. So 100% of platinum metal groups is in these three countries. And the issue is why there is no global cooperation among these countries to control the production and the price of platinum, but also to beneficiate platinum to advance industrialization and development of the three economies and share those technologies with other developing. The last point, green hydrogen, the renewable energies and other new green technologies require fueling. Requires more critical minerals, and most of these critical minerals, talk manganese, most of them are found in South Africa. Cobalt, you find it in DRC. So most of these critical minerals that are fueling this green transition and the ambitions of green industrialization of the North are found in the Global South. And the Global South must find ways and means of cooperation to drive development and industrialization. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Comrade Tambo. I deliberately gave you more time because if not, you might chase us out. This is your house. Yeah, so I just had to be patient because I may very well, get us chased out for time. Let's give our respondents a round of applause. This is what I was saying to you, Prof, that your presentation has a lot attached to it. So there's many debates and there's many areas of conversations that you might have. I just want to acknowledge, I've been informed that the ambassador of Venezuela to Angola is here. Her name is, I left my phone, it's busy. Mrs. Belay. Yes, Mrs. Belay Osini. Yes. Thank you so much for joining us. Yeah, thank you. We really appreciate it. So, comrades, what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up a round of hands quickly, including the comrades online, to engage with the presentation of the professor. I'm not sure if you will have the right of response given the time. As you can see, we have young people that we can't just take them away for a long time. But I would want us to engage. If there are any questions, we'll see on how are we doing on time, Prof. We'll give you the right to respond, or we'll create another avenue for you to respond to the questions. So I'm noting hands, comrades. Please do engage, including the comrades online. You can raise your hands. We'll give you the right to unmute your mic and engage some of the content that was presented, including what our respondents said. Comrades, there's one hand there at the back. I just want to note all the heads. There's another one here. So it's one at the back, 2, 3. Going once, going twice. Okay. Let's, before these comrades respond, here's the mic. Are there any hands online? Comrades online? I see the provincial chairperson of Northern Cape, Dr. Zamani Soul, is us. Appreciate your presence. If there are no hands, comrade.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Okay, thank you so much. My name is Komoto Ekokwabe. I think, Professor, you hit a note where you highlighted that within us being majority and us being still not having so much power in terms of how we control the economy. It's with the time that we are given, I feel that I just had to raise 2 things because it's more of a lecture, not based on the recommendations that we have. But my questions lies on let me just get to my pointers. One, it's in South Africa or near Africa, is that we've painted that US aid has been the fundamental support in terms of the financial institutions, in terms of the economy of in Africa. So with that being cut off, My question is that who's the next US aid? Who's the next US aid? Because currently what President Trump has done is that he withdraw his funding and support for South Africa and Africa, the entire Africa. So my question is that who's the next US aid? And also who'll be financially, who'll be the similar aid for us in Africa? Because of with that we lost a lot of funding, we lost a lot of support. Who's the next US aid to us? Because we've painted the picture that we are depending on America for financial support, while else we are the contributors within America. So who's the next USS aid, and when is that being implemented, or when are we replacing USS aid in terms of financial support and development? Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Alfred Mafulega, the Education Department here at Cosatu. I don't necessarily have a question, Professor. I just want to appreciate the very informative presentation that you made to us. I think we're beginning to realize and understand what is happening, especially in the geopolitical sphere, what the global north is doing, the global south. Particularly, I was interested when you showed I think it's the labor time that we give as workers. We could see that the workers in the global south are giving, I think it's nearly 10 times more than what the global north does. Whereas in terms of the pay differentials, you can see that the global north are actually getting more than what the global south is getting. So in the global south, we work long hours for less, and they work very few hours for more. So the demand that we have, the 40-hour demand, is very clear. So we need at the global south to actually keep fighting to fight and strengthen our resolve for cooperation.
Thank you. My name is Rudolf Shigwe, and I'm from Deepspot. Within listening to the lecture, I just had to be reminded as to what is the culture of Africa, what is the culture of the global south. If we are looking at the American culture, it does dictate that this is the values and the principles that they abide by or they rule by. But as Africa or as the global south, what are the rules and the values that we value and that we can be able to counterpart the American system that has been, very depressive and very offensive towards emancipating the global culture as a whole. So it's very important that we start looking at what are we developing in terms of leadership, in terms of trade, what are we developing as the global south that will be able to help us grow the systems and the role that we want to engage with when we look at international relations. So we also need to include the ordinary citizens into this discussion, because sometimes we believe the 40 or more than 40% of the people are not participating in the debate and contributing toward the global trade as to what kind of system they want to see being placed in our communities. So with that being said,
My question is that, like, what will be the culture that we want to see and the culture that needs to develop, especially around leadership? Because when we look at the leadership system, it's still perpetuating the American model kind of leadership style, whereby we lead at a political level, but what are the values and principles, again, of a African or South African culture that speaks to the relevancy of the people that are living within the borders of Africa and South Africa as a whole? Thank you.
Thank you very much for all those questions and comments. We truly appreciate them. Prof, I may be forced to do something that I don't want to do, but I'm looking at my time. Are there any questions online? But I see their engagements in the chat group. So we'll get the transcript and maybe share some of those questions with you, right? So I'm just going to give you about 5 to 10 minutes as a grace just to respond. And then we're just going to call the principal to do the closing, Prof. I'm sorry for limiting the time. Yeah.
Thank you for your questions. There are some things we need to understand before going on. The first thing is the existence of an institution that is called a BIS, the Bank of International Settlements. That institution controls all the central banks in the world, all of them, and takes decisions without any authorization. So our banks doesn't depend of our parties or of our governments, doesn't depend of them. It depends of a system. And also, you have 3 institutions in the world, actually. First of all is the international market. International market is an institution. It has more than 100 years. And it's controlled by whom? Trade World Organization. World Trade Organization. Yeah, it's very controlled. There is another institution. It is called the Global Labor Organization, or the International Labor Organization, or Worker Organization, that controls how you manage the time of the workers in every country. Yeah? And it's very well controlled. So all the time you have been disposed, we have been dispossessed. It's because of these institutions. And there is another institution. It's very important. It is the internet. It's an institution. We don't control it. We think it is not an institution. We think it is controlled by our countries. It's not controlled by our countries. Internet is based in the United States. It's produced in the United States. And it's controlled by the United States. So banks are controlled by the global north. Trade is controlled by the global north. Labor is controlled by the global north. Internet is controlled by the global north. What we may do, not just to study, we must prepare in our communities to change the way we manage. We find ways, new ways to establish a new order, world order, not only internationally, but there at the community. The changes are in the community. The changes are in the youth, with the young people. The changes are politically aware. We must not dream with China. We must start dreaming with our own community. Then if we change our community, if we produce in our community the changes, then we may start thinking in a different country. But you may not criticize the president, the party that rules, if you are not making anything in your community. You need to make changes in your community. You know, this is the first of all. And for finishing this, I would like to thank again Professor Tick, that made a huge number of questions. And I would like to propose to all of you to keep on. Let's keep going on this seminar. We can call it a seminar, and we may make some progress in studies. Not only me teaching something, but me also learning from you. Next time, I need to go with you to communities, to go with you to different states, provinces, to listen to the people. We need to go everywhere. Forget about air conditioning, about these rooms. We need to be there with our people. So, thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. Thank you very much. I think you ended on a very high note. Can we please give Professor Tomas Camacho a round of applause? I think, Prof, these young people, as you see them here today, led by that young man who asked the first question, Diego, we are trying to not only heighten their political consciousness, but also produce activists in them that will be on the ground. So I hope that this information that you've got today, don't look at it as, dense information that you cannot break down and translate into practical actions that can be implemented at a community level. It's just really to give you an appreciation of what's going on in the world, so that when you engage with your communities, you also engage with them from a much more informed perspective. In our theoretical lexicon, we often say you are an advanced detachment of your communities when you choose to gain political consciousness. What that says is that when your peers' level of understanding of their material conditions is here, yours should be here. And you should seek to elevate them to that level, to make them understand that it's not their fault that they are facing the challenges that they are facing. They are global and domestic dynamics that reproduce those conditions. And this is what they need to do in order to challenge those conditions. So we'll find a way, Prof, to also break down that information so that it is accessible to them. Because some of those concepts are huge. It takes a number of years for you to get some of those things that you are speaking about. I mean, when you speak about geopsychiatrists, I was in there. What is happening now? But we can break down those concepts from the content in which you've put and say, this is what we mean, so that they are empowered to actually share this information with their peers. And we'll definitely invite you to our next seminars and master classes and some of the community work, so that you can actually see the work that we are doing as the OR Tambo School of Leadership, and hopefully as Cosatu as well, because we are part of one movement, the liberation movement of South Africa. In fact, the liberation movement of Southern Africa. I can even go further, the liberation movement of Africa, because the ANC and its entire liberation movement is the oldest of the continent. So without any further ado, comrades, I'm going to invite the principal of the OR Tambo School of Leadership. The principal, his bio is very long. Just recently has been elected as the chairperson of the DPSA, that is the Development Bank of South Africa. He's the principal of the Tambo School of Leadership. He's the head of political education in the ANC. He's the former provincial chairperson of this province, Gauteng, the former premier of this province. He's the former provincial secretary of this particular province. He has been doing political education for years in the trade union movement. He's the former president of SASCO. I can go on and on up until tomorrow. Principal, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Comrade Kifense. I would like to thank our visiting professor for a very exciting lecture that he gave. And I kept thinking when you were starting, Professor, so stuff, when are you going to deal with geopolitics? That maybe the professor was not briefed properly. So he's talking about everything. And you were building your story, building your story. And when you got to make the linkages, it was a very clear. And we often just go straight into what is happening in the world by what we see. We often, the stuff that's playing out openly, but what is the underlying motive? What is driving that is often not part of the discourse. So I really want to commend you for this. And I want to acknowledge the comrades who are online, who attended this masterclass. I also want to acknowledge the respondents, TK, Dr. Poede, a very studied response to the lecture, and my colleagues who spoke here, and others were able to raise their issues. We do have, I was advised that we also have a visiting ambassador with us, the ambassador of Venezuela to Angola. She's sitting at the back there. Viva Venezuela! Viva South Africa! So we organized this masterclass together with the Venezuelan ambassador, Cosatu and the SACP. We were together at the Cosatu Central Committee, and we were advised that there's a visiting professor who's engaging, doing briefings basically about the latest developments in Venezuela. But what you did was amazing, because we were talking about, at some point I thought, okay, you're just going to talk about Latin America, but you're talking about the world order as is unfolding, but also history, kind of moving back in order to move forward. And you did that very brilliant. I want us to give Cosatu a very big round of applause. Cosatu is our host. The Federation, Progressive Federation Movement is our host. Those of you who are online, you need to know we are at Cosatu House. We are negotiating with Cosatu. The chiefs from Cosatu. We are negotiating with you. You have so much space here. that we can do this master classes here. So the OR Tambo School is homeless, basically. We are a homeless political school. We don't have a campus as yet. Our office is very small. We can't host a memorial lecture there. We can't have a master class there. But here, just coming, seeing the other side where I just came, there's another big class there. It's empty. We could do another lecture. We could even do simultaneous lectures. Yeah. And we also have at another floor, the CEC, a big boardroom of the CEC. We can do 3. And Cosatu, you are not utilizing this building sufficiently. It's not used optimally. You are operating like the logic of capitalism. You can't have empty spaces when there are homeless people. It's not socialist, this approach. Every space must be used optimally from each according to each according to from each according to ability, to each according to the need. Yeah. You have ability and capacity to provide the space, but we have the need. Capitalism destroys food if it's not bought to create a market. If you have too much food, the food must be thrown away, even if they are the hungry people, millions of hungry people. To keep the price at certain level and keep the demand at certain level. So, Cosatu, we really thank you for this. And I want to thank the team from the OR Tambo School for the efforts. So the ambassador of Venezuela and the team there also made this possible, worked with us to make this possible. We thank the ambassador. I want to thank the team from the OR Tambo School. So what are these master classes? Stephens did say this at the beginning. So part of what we do as the school, we run formal political education classes. At the moment, we are running the biggest mass political education program called the Foundation course. Actually, when I was connecting there, is because we are running, today we launched a big one for the National Executive Committee of the Veterans League of the ANC. These are veterans of the liberation struggle. And the Women's League of the ANC, the National Executive Committee. So today we launched that, but throughout the country, as the comrades would know, throughout the country, we want in every community, the ANC, the alliance structures, the leagues to be going through political education. One of the modules in our political education foundation course is on international relations. Precisely what we are dealing with here, to understand the world, where it comes from, how the current international order has evolved, to understand geoeconomics and geopolitics. And I was very happy how you dealt with just the political geography of the world. The whole concept of geopolitics arises out of an understanding of how your location, but also your place in the order, whether it's natural, what the imperialists want from you, they put you in that, and there's so much that they want from us, they want from South Americans. The epicenter of globalization and imperialism revolves around us, but we are such powerful people in the South, in the global South. We are powerful because that epicenter, the global North, cannot exist and operate without us. And one of the things that TK was saying is that we must be conscious, politically conscious about that power we have. and not act as victims, and understand that that part of the world called the global north cannot exist without the global south. It's actually a parasitic relationship we have, exploitative relationship. And TK was talking in absolute numbers about how we shape global trade today, how much we are in the driving seat, but are we doing it consciously? Are we the principal beneficiaries of that? Are we shaping? Everybody preaches that America is this biggest thing and you need a relationship with them. And yes, we do, but it must be on our terms. We need a relationship amongst us as the countries in the global south. We need the relationship with the global north, but it must be on our terms. Today, Venezuela is facing a very serious threat of invasion today, as we speak. Serious threat of invasion, possible invasion, or aggression in the way we have seen aggression before. So part of what the Venezuelan ambassador had said is that the Venezuelan people need solidarity. So part of why we're gathered here, this lecture, this masterclass, Venezuelan people. We must continue to, Venezuela has huge natural resources. It has got oil. Today it is the dominant oil country. That's far exceeds what we have always understood OPEC, the oil producing countries to be. That's why Venezuela is facing a threat. It's not about what is said to be that it is Venezuela is the home of drug lords and that. It is about Venezuela's. We need to pledge that solidarity with the Venezuelan people. The one powerful thing about the Africans, we in Africa and in South Africa and people of Latin America, where we come from the traditions of struggle. It doesn't matter how hard things are. We must continue to fight for our national sovereignties. We must fight for development along the path we have chosen. We must fight for our own development path. We must choose the way we want to relate with the world. We must fight for our independent foreign policy. We must decide who we are friends with, and that friendship must be mutually beneficial. We mustn't have anyone imposing on us that you can't have relations with that country or with that country. We must not accept that. We are people of struggle, born of struggle. But we also are people who genuinely want development to favor the poor, development to favor working class people. Those are our traditions of struggle. We don't want development that is centered on the few, on the elite, to enrich only the elite and leave out poor people. Whether it's building infrastructure or building institutions, democratic institutions, building an economy, ensuring that our people have access to land. We have common struggles with people of Latin America. We have those common struggles. So this solidarity is extremely important. So I certainly want to conclude by saying that we are going to do more of these master classes. Our first master class was with the Chinese professors. As Kifense said, it was on industrialization. But we're also going to do more than that. We're going to send a visiting team from our political education to Venezuela and Cuba. Again, when you talk of solidarity, the Cubans, we must always remember the Cubans. Here in Africa, we must always remember the people of Western Sahara. Of course, we also have our people next door in Swaziland who are involved in their struggles. So solidarity forever, as we always say, solidarity forever. Learning is also an act of self-discipline. You can't be involved in struggles if you don't pay attention to learning and giving yourself time to learn and understand these struggles, but also understand the economics, understand the global economy, understand global geopolitics, but also the discipline of building strong organization is also so important. So we're not university students, we are activists. In the end, activists must mobilize and organize. We deploy our knowledge, we must learn so that we can organize better, we can provide better leadership to communities, to sectors of society, so we can achieve the kind of world we want. And that vision that another world is possible is what joins us together. The people of Latin America, the people of Africa, and the people of Asia. We in the Global South believe another world is possible. We live in an era where it is evident that the empires in the North are no longer the only players in the room. So we've got alternatives and another world is possible. So thank you very much. I want to invite you to, as we conclude, to invite you, even when you are online, please do it virtually. You can join us here to eat with us virtually, a little bit of what Cosatu has organized. But I hand over back to Kifense. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Principal. The Principal has also done the vote of thanks, which I think is good, because we had designated another comrade to do an actual vote of thanks. And I don't want to distort whatever I said, but I just wanted to correct one mistake. And in fact, Principal, we're being fed by the embassy today. Yes. And I think that's an important acknowledgement to make, because we may not get food next time. So they had said that they are giving us a Venezuelan flavor. So as you go out there and enjoy, please take note that it's also a cultural exchange in terms of food.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to say before I release you is just to make a couple of announcements. One is that I know that the embassy is having a program tomorrow at Freedom Park. Is it Saturday or tomorrow?
No, Saturday.
Saturday, yes, Saturday. So if you're available, please do go to Freedom Park. They are having a program. I told you that as the school, we are celebrating our Tambo month as part of commemorating and sustaining the legacy of President O.R. Tambo, who was the longest serving president of the ANC. So we'll be having a number of activities. So we invite you to actually look at our social media pages, where we'll be announcing some of these activities. But just to give you a taste, because you are here, you know, sometimes being present is important because you get first-hand information. So as a bonus, on the 16th, we're having a public lecture at WITS, which will be delivered by the former Deputy President, Dr. Phumzile Mlambo-Ngcuka. You'll hear the information, what the lecture is about on social media. I can't give you everything. So, and then we're also going to have a screening of a documentary called O.R. Tambo, the Jewel in Our Crown, on the 23rd. And that is likely to happen at the Bioscope at 44 Stanley. We are also going to have a launch of our journal. I won't tell you the name now, but we're going to have that launch, which is likely to happen on the 30th of October, towards the end of the month. And then we'll also have a digital campaign, which will start from Monday, just commemorating the leadership legacy of O.R. Tambo as a diplomat, as a politician, as a teacher, and as a leader in general. So if you want to learn more about O.R. Tambo, please follow our social media, because every day we'll be having an infographic that commemorates the leadership legacy of President O.R. Tambo. With that said, Seria Moseja, Raselebohela, Kalibizola Jesu Christe. Amen.
Amen. So we can fantastic. Yes, I said that. Now we must have this plan the relationship, but also that is. Yeah. Right. Yeah, my day is. Sorry. Group photo, ne? Hey. Okay.